I never imagined that running away from home would involve a sweaty taxi driver and KYV shouting, "Miss, your hair is too bright, everyone can see you," while I hid behind my luggage like a dramatic movie character. But there I was, a blonde Ukrainian woman with blue eyes, dragging a suitcase that weighed more than my emotional baggage, praying my parents wouldn't appear behind me like final bosses in a video game. My parents weren't bad people. They were just too much. Too protective, too strict, too obsessed with the idea that a daughter must follow a certain path. Study hard, work hard, be responsible, be perfect. And maybe I could have lived with all the pressure. Except they also believed I shouldn't travel alone because the world is dangerous. Shouldn't talk to strangers because kidnappers exist, and shouldn't wear short dresses because it's snowing. I'm 28. I can wear a dress in winter if I want. One night, after yet another argument about my future, my mother dramatically clutched her chest like a telenovela character, and my father waved my passport like a weapon. I realized something deep inside me. If I didn't leave, I would never learn who I truly was. So I booked a ticket. And not just anywhere. I chose the Philippines, a place that always felt like a dream. Beaches, warm people, endless sunlight. And especially one thing I had been craving for years, freedom. When the plane lifted off, I looked at KYV through the window, whispered sorry, and let myself breathe for what felt like the first time. I didn't know what waited for me on the other side of the planet. All I knew was that I was chasing something I had never felt before, a sense of belonging. When I landed in Manila, the heat greeted me like an overexcited dog. A wave of humidity slapped my face so hard I almost cried. My blonde hair immediately frizzed. My makeup melted as fast as my will to live. I was pretty sure my legs were sweating. I didn't even know legs could sweat. But the airport staff smiled at me like I wasn't a chaotic mess. And the immigration officer said, "Welcome home." I blinked. Home? I had just arrived. But something in his tone made my chest warm. The taxi line was long, filled with people of all ages. Some holding giant Balikbayan boxes, some on their phones, some laughing. One man carrying a toddler smiled at me and said, "Ma'am, you're too tall for this heat. But you're beautiful." I couldn't tell if it was a compliment or a warning from the sun. My taxi driver was named Tito Boy. He told me immediately, "No boyfriend." He asked as soon as I sat down. I froze. "Why do you ask?" "Wala lang. Just want to know if you're single or taken by God." "What?" "You look too pretty to be single, but too free to be taken," he said proudly. That is equation of Filipina destiny. I had no idea what that meant. So I just smiled and pretended I understood. During the ride to my airbin, I stared out the window in awe. Manila was chaotic and beautiful, a mix of skyscrapers, jeepneys decorated like transformers, random food stalls, and people everywhere. It was noisy, alive, overwhelming in the best way. I wasn't used to so many smiles. Back home, people only smiled if they were drunk or winning lottery. When we reached the apartment, I paid Tito Boy and he said the most unexpected thing, "If you need help, call me. I will be your Filipino uncle here." Uncle? I had just met him. But something warm spread in my chest again. Filipinos were strange, wonderfully strange. My urban host was a middle-aged woman named Maribel who greeted me at the door with a tight hug, like she knew me since birth. Before I could even introduce myself, she grabbed my suitcase, carried it like it weighed nothing, and ushered me inside. "You're too thin. Did you eat?" she asked me. I had airplane food? No, that is not food. "Wait, I cook." She vanished into the kitchen and soon, the smell of garlic and soy filled the air. Minutes later, she placed a plate of adobo and rice in front of me. I stared at the food, then at her. "You didn't have to eat," she commanded. I ate. I had one bite. And I sobbed, not because it tasted bad, but because it tasted like something I never knew I needed: warmth, comfort, a hug in food form. "Why are you crying?" she asked, alarmed. "It's delicious." I choked out like a broken child. She softened. "You are safe here. Stay as long as you need." Something in her tone loosened a knot in my chest that had been there for years. Over the next few days, I learned a lot about the Philippines. For example, rice is not food, it is life. Everyone will call you ma'am even if you are younger than them. Jeepneys are colorful, but entering one feels like a cardio workout. Filipinos will apologize even if you step on them. You can't say no to food, ever. They will feed you again. But the thing I learned most was this: Filipinos treat strangers like family. One afternoon, I decided to explore the neighborhood. As I walked past small sari-sari stores, people waved and smiled. A group of kids pointed at me and said, "Barbie," and then ran away giggling. An old lady selling mangoes pulled my hand and said, "Taste this, anak, child." Again, that word that hit somewhere deep. I bought mangoes. I didn't even like mangoes much before. But Filipino mangoes? Oh, those could make you see God. As I walked further, I noticed children playing basketball barefoot on a cracked court. One kid shouted, "8, picture Teo," before handing me a tiny sticky phone with no case. I took their photo and they cheered like I had given them $1,000,000. I kept walking until I reached a small carinderia. A man behind the counter grinned at me. "Try our pancit?" On the house for the blonde girl with blue eyes. I wanted to protest, but he had already placed a plate in front of me. The noodles were simple but delicious. I learned later that the cook's name was Mang Erwin, and he became one of my favorite people. While I was eating, a group of women approached me. They giggled when I looked up. "You're so tall." One of them said, "You're so beautiful." Another whispered, "You want Filipino boyfriend?" The third asked boldly. I choked on my pancit. I didn't come here for that. "It's okay," she said with confidence. "Love will find you. Especially here." I didn't know whether to be scared or flattered. Later that evening, back in the airbin, I heard a knock on my door. It was Maribel holding a bowl of soup. "Chicken tinola," she said. "You will like it, Maribel. You don't have to keep feeding me." She frowned like I insulted her ancestors. "Of course I have to. You are away from your parents, right?" Her words made my spine freeze. "How did you? You look like someone running from something," she said gently. My throat tightened. My eyes burned. I didn't want to cry again, but I couldn't stop a tear from slipping out. She placed the bowl down and sat beside me. "Whatever you're escaping, you don't have to carry it alone." She didn't ask details. She didn't judge, she just understood. And I realized something strange. I felt more seen in 1 week in the Philippines than I had in 28 years in Ukraine. The next few days, Maribel insisted on showing me around the city. She introduced me to neighbors. She brought me to a palanque where vendors shouted prices louder than thunder. She taught me how to properly say salamat po without sounding like a confused tourist. She even brought me to her grandchild's birthday party, and that's where the funniest thing happened. Filipino parties are loud. Not just loud, they are chaos. Kids screaming, adults singing karaoke, food everywhere, balloons popping, dogs barking, and an auntie telling everyone to eat even after they already ate 3 times. I was minding my own business, holding a plate of spaghetti, when someone handed me a microphone. "Sing," they demanded. I what? "Sing any song." "I can't, it's okay. Just sing." Before I could escape, the machine started playing Dancing Queen. Everyone started cheering like I was Beyonce. And so, like a fool, I sang, poorly, horribly, off-key, but instead of judging, they clapped, laughed, and recorded me like I was the star of the night, and gayling. They shouted. It meant so good, but we all knew they were lying. And yet that lie felt warmer than any truth I'd ever known. As the days passed, I grew closer to them, Maribel, the neighborhood kids, the carinderia owners, the sari-sari store aunties. They treated me like I belonged, without conditions, without expectations. One evening, as I sat outside watching families gather, I realized something heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone, and the strangest part? I started to fear going back home. I didn't plan to stay long in the Philippines, maybe a month, I thought, enough time to breathe, figure things out, then quietly fly back to Ukraine before my parents hired detectives or printed missing daughter posters with an embarrassing childhood photo. But 1 month passed, then another, and somehow, the idea of leaving felt like ripping myself away from a world I didn't know I needed. The Philippines didn't just welcome me, it absorbed me. I became part of the neighborhood. People stopped calling me foreigner and started calling me Anak, 8, Inde, Barbie. And once, by a drunk uncle, future daughter-in-law, I pretended not to hear that one. But the truth was simple, I felt like I belonged. One Sunday morning, Maribel barged into my room like a SWAT team. "Wake up," she shouted. "What? Is the house on fire? Are zombies here? Did my parents arrive?" She squinted at me. "Breakfast is ready." That was it, just breakfast. But in Filipino culture, breakfast was apparently an emergency. I stumbled out of bed, hair a mess, wearing pajamas that looked like I fought a bear. Maribel didn't judge. She dragged me to the kitchen where she had laid out a full feast. Tapsilog, sinangag, itlog, pandesal, hot dog, and a mountain of rice big enough to bury secrets. "You have to eat heavy," she said. "We're going to the province." "The province? Where?" "My hometown. My sister wants to meet you." "Why? What did I do?" "You exist," she said. "Is that not enough?" I felt like a celebrity being forced into a meet and greet I didn't sign up for. An hour later, I was in a van with Maribel, her cousins, 2 giant coolers filled with food, a live chicken in a cage, and a toddler staring at me like I was a zoo exhibit. The toddler poked my arm. "You're so white," she whispered. "Thank you. I guess, you're like big marshmallow." Great. I escaped Ukraine only to be rebranded as dessert. The trip was long, bumpy, and filled with non-stop chismes. I didn't understand most of it. But every time I heard my name, I sat up straight like a soldier. She's so tall, one cousin said. Her hair is so blonde, another added. Her eyes are blue. Blue like the sky before typhoon. Then they all turned to me and smiled. I smiled back awkwardly and muttered, "Salamat po," which made them squeal as if I had recited Shakespeare. When we reached the province, I expected a quiet village. Wrong. The moment the van stopped, half the barangay sprinted toward us. I stepped out and immediately a chorus erupted. Ang ganda. Look, her eyes, blue, tall. She is sulfur monoxide tall. Can I touch hair? Before I knew it, old ladies were hugging me, uncles were shaking my hand. Kids were circling me like I was a mystical creature summoned by the gods. Someone placed a flower crown on my head. Someone gave me buko juice. Someone fed me suman. Someone shouted, "Take picture," before I could even breathe. I had never been this popular in my entire existence. Maribel's sister, 8 low leet, hugged me so tight I saw stars. "You are my daughter now," she declared. I didn't know how adoption worked here, but I was apparently already adopted. They fed me non-stop. Every time I finished one dish, another magically appeared. The women kept saying, "Kain pa," like a chant. I ate so much I was convinced my future children would be made of rice. Later in the afternoon, the men invited me to play basketball. I tried politely turning them down, but they insisted. "You're tall, you can be center." I didn't know what center meant, but I agreed. How hard could it be? Very hard. I stepped on the court, and immediately a kid shouted, "Pass the ball to 8 Ukraine." Suddenly, the ball was thrown at me with the force of a missile. It hit my stomach. I folded like laundry. Everyone panicked. "Are you okay?" 8 Ukraine down. Medic, medic. An old man rushed forward holding alcohol. The magical Filipino cure. They rubbed alcohol on my arms, forehead, cheeks, and I think even my soul absorbed some. A woman fanned me with a slipper. A kid brought me water in a plastic cup with a cartoon character on it. "I'm okay," I wheezed. After 5 minutes, I was declared healed by alcohol, and the game resumed this time. They made me referee so I wouldn't die again. That evening, the entire barangay gathered for dinner. Tables were lined up on the street. Everyone sat together, talking, laughing, sharing food. Fireflies floated around us. Kids played tag, and karaoke echoed from someone's house. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt peace. Maribel sat beside me. "You look happy," she said. "I am," I admitted. "You're safe here," I nodded. But part of me, the part still connected to Ukraine, squeezed painfully. Because while I found something beautiful here, I knew something heavy waited for me back home. At night, while everyone danced, I slipped away to sit by the rice fields under the moonlight. I pulled out my phone and stared at my parents' numbers. I hadn't spoken to them since I left. What would I even say? "Hi, I'm alive. Also, your daughter is now the official blonde mascot of a Filipino barangay," I sighed. Suddenly, I heard footsteps. I turned and saw a young Filipino man around my age walking toward me. He had warm eyes and a soft smile. "Hi," he said. "I'm Leo. Maribel said I should check on you." "Oh, thank you. Are you enjoying here?" "Very much." "Maybe too much." He sat down beside me. "Not too close, not too far, you know," he said. "Filipino families sometimes choose you before you choose them." "What do you mean?" "We don't always ask. If we feel you're kind, we include you. You were kind, so now you're family." His words sank deep. I hugged my knees. "My family in Ukraine, things are complicated," I said softly. "You don't have to explain." He replied gently. "But you're not alone here." I looked at him and something in his eyes felt safe. We talked under the moonlight about culture, food, dreams, fears, embarrassing stories. He laughed when I told him how I almost died from the basketball ball. I laughed when he told me his childhood crush was his math teacher because she smelled like pancit canton. The night breeze was warm, the fireflies danced, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a runaway. I felt like a person beginning again. When we returned to the gathering, everyone cheered like we got married. Old aunties whispered, kids giggled, uncles winked. I blushed so hard I thought my face would explode. Later, as I got ready for bed, Maribel knocked on my door. "So, you met Leo?" "Yes, he's single," she said with the confidence of a matchmaker, "and very kind." "Maribel, I'm just saying. Look at him, look at you. Perfect." "Maribel," she cackled her way down the hallway. The next morning, we drove back to Manila. I sat in the van, staring out the window, thinking of the laughter, the food, the warmth, the field lit by fireflies. Something in me shifted. In Ukraine, I had a family bound by blood. In the Philippines, I found a family bound by choice, and maybe that was even more powerful. When we got back to the city, I headed directly to my favorite carinderia. Mang Erwing greeted me with a grin. "You look different," he said. "How?" "You look like you've been adopted by the whole barangay." I think I was. He laughed and served me pancit cannon with extra calamansi. I felt at home again. But then something unexpected happened. While I was eating, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother, just one line, "Come home." Please, my heart dropped. I stared at the screen, my hands trembled. Mang Erwin noticed. Bad news? I don't know. Suddenly the warmth of the Philippines felt like a blanket slipping off my shoulders. The weight of everything I escaped came rushing back. I walked home slowly. My thoughts loud and messy. Maribel opened the door before I even knocked. "You look troubled," she said. I handed her my phone. She read the message and pulled me into a tight hug. "You don't have to decide today," she whispered. "You can think, you can breathe, you can stay. You can leave, whatever you choose. You are loved here." Tears spilled down my cheeks. Because she said the one thing I had never heard when I lived in Ukraine. You are loved. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling. Listening to the distant hum of tricycles and dogs barking, I felt torn between two worlds. The one I escaped, and the one that embraced me, but something inside me was changing slowly, softly, beautifully. I came to the Philippines to escape, but now, I wasn't running anymore, I was healing. And this place, these people were becoming part of me in ways I never expected. I curled up, wiped my tears, and whispered into the dark, "I'm not ready to go home. Not yet, maybe not ever." She always believed that healing came quietly, slowly, like snow melting at the end of winter. But the Philippines taught her the opposite. Sometimes healing arrives loudly. With karaoke at midnight, with neighbors shouting from across the street. With children laughing as they run barefoot, with plates of pancit given for no reason. With a chorus of "Kain na," even when you just finished eating. Healing could be noisy and chaotic and warm, and maybe that was exactly why it worked. She had been in the Philippines for months now, and the village already treated her as if she had always been there. At the sari-sari store, the kids called her Aunt Maria and begged her to say Filipino words so they could giggle at her accent. The lolas touched her hair and said, "Ay ang ganda praying Barbie." The moms asked her if she had a Filipino boyfriend yet. And the men in tricycles greeted her every morning with, "Good morning. Ma'am, you look like movie star today." But what surprised her most was how much the Filipinos never questioned her past. They were curious, yes, but never judgmental. No one asked why she left Ukraine. No one interrogated her. No one said she was dramatic or ungrateful. They simply accepted her, fed her, included her, and wrapped her in a kind of unconditional affection she wasn't used to. One afternoon, while she was buying ice candy from the sari-sari store, a lola suddenly held her hand, not gently, but firmly, like a grandmother checking on a grandchild. "You look tired, Anak. You okay?" She wasn't used to anyone noticing her feelings. Back home, exhaustion was ignored, buried, or criticized, but here, one look and a lola already knew. She nodded, forcing a small smile. "I'm okay, Po." The lola smiled, patting the back of her hand. "If you need anything, you come to my house. I have sopas." She felt something tighten in her throat. Sopas was something she didn't even know she needed until someone offered it with so much warmth. She whispered, "Salamat Po," and the lola smiled as if she had just heard the sweetest music. But the real turning point, the moment she understood the meaning of family, happened on a random Sunday morning. The family who hosted her, Tito Boy, Tita Faye, and their children were getting ready for church. She usually stayed home on Sundays, enjoying a quiet day to herself. But that morning, she felt strangely pulled toward them. Maybe it was the way they all moved in harmony, even in the chaos of getting dressed, boiling water, ironing clothes, and shouting for the kids to hurry. She hesitated near the door. "Can I join?" It was like she asked if she could join them for the trip of a lifetime. Tita Faye squealed, clapping her hands. Of course, come, I have dress for you." Before she could say anything, a floral dress appeared in her arms, clean and beautiful, as if waiting for her all this time. She put it on, and suddenly the mirror reflected someone new, not a runaway daughter, not a lonely foreigner, but a woman who finally looked like she belonged somewhere. The church was small and warm, filled with families who greeted each other like they hadn't just seen each other yesterday. Children giggled, old men smiled at her, and a group of teenagers stared, whispering, "Ang ganda niya, farner pero very payapa tingnan." During the service, she watched the family beside her. She watched how they held hands. She watched how they bowed their heads together. She watched how they prayed not just for themselves, but for neighbors, friends, and even strangers. Afterward, during breakfast at a small carinderia, she found herself eating champorado with tuyo, something she never imagined would taste good. But more than the food, it was the way everyone ate together that amazed her. Plates were pushed around, food was shared, and no one was allowed to sit alone. Even when new customers arrived, they were pulled into conversations like distant relatives rediscovered. At one moment, as she laughed with the family over a joke she barely understood, She felt tears forming. She wiped them quickly, hoping no one would notice. But of course, Filipinos always notice. Tito boy asked softly, "Why are you crying, Enak?" She shook her head, embarrassed. "I'm just happy." His smile was gentle. "Ah, that's normal here," but it wasn't normal for her. She wasn't used to eating meals with laughter. She wasn't used to having people who genuinely cared if she was okay. She wasn't used to being treated as part of a group instead of an outsider. That day changed her. It was the first time she felt like she didn't have to earn love. It simply appeared in front of her in plates of champorado and warm invitations. In prayers spoken on her behalf. In the following weeks, she experienced more small moments that stitched themselves into her heart. One evening, while walking home from the palanque, rain suddenly poured, violent, loud, overwhelming. She panicked for a second, unsure where to run. But a tricycle driver waved frantically and shouted, "8, Dito." He opened the sidecar, and she hurried in. But instead of charging her, he simply said, "Libre mo na yan, basa ka na mahirap magkasakit." She didn't have the words to thank him properly. So she placed her hand over her chest and said softly, "Salamat, from my heart." He nodded, smiling proudly. "Welcome, ma'am, ingat ka lagi." Another time, she was washing clothes outside when the neighbors approached her. "8 Maria, why are you washing alone? Halika na, group wash tayo." Before she could protest, her clothes were already taken, divided among the women, and scrubbed clean with the speed of people who had done this together for decades. They shared gossip, food, and laughter. By the end, her clothes were cleaner than she ever washed them, and she felt like she had been inducted into a secret society of Filipino moms. There was also the birthday surprise they threw for her. She didn't tell anyone about her birthday. In Ukraine, her birthdays were usually quiet, sometimes tense, sometimes forgotten, but in the Philippines, nothing remains a secret for long. She woke up to a chorus of happy birthday and kids holding balloons made from grocery bags. The kitchen table overflowed with spaghetti, fried chicken, pancit bihon, and a cake that said "Mahal ka namin, Maria" in icing letters. She cried immediately, overwhelmed. Tita Fey hugged her tightly. "Oh, don't cry, Enak. Today is your day. You are our family." Family, that word hurt and healed her all at once. That night, after the celebration, Tito boy sat beside her on the porch. The stars were bright, the air warm, and the smell of grilled fish lingered in the breeze. He said gently, "I don't know what you went through in Ukraine, but I know you were sad. I know you came here with a heavy heart." She looked down, her voice trembling. "I felt like I didn't belong anywhere." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "But you belong here now, okay? This is your home too." She nodded, tears falling. In that moment, she finally understood what the Philippines taught her, something no textbook or documentary could ever explain. Family isn't always the people you're born with. Sometimes family is found in the warmth of strangers, in the laughter of neighbors, in the care of people who share their food even when they don't have much, in the arms of a community that welcomes you without asking for anything in return. Sometimes family is the people who choose you again and again, every day. Months later, she received a message from her parents back in Ukraine. It wasn't the angry, disappointed kind she expected. It was softer, gentler. They asked if she was okay. They asked if she was safe. They asked if she had found peace. She stared at the screen, thinking of everything she'd been through. She took a deep breath and replied, "I'm happy. I found a place where I feel loved." Her mother replied, "We're glad. Maybe someday we can understand each other again." It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a start, and maybe that was enough for now. Life continued in the Philippines, louder, sweeter, messier, and more loving than anything she ever knew. She joined barangay fiestas. She learned to dance, tinikling badly but enthusiastically. She became addicted to halo halo. She learned phrases like a naku and carrot and g, and used them every day. She fell in love with sunsets, with jeepney rides, with street food, with people who hugged her like family. She didn't know what the future held, whether she would stay forever or someday move forward to another place. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty: the Philippines didn't just give her a home, it gave her a heart that finally felt safe to love, to trust, to laugh, and to live again. And sometimes that is all a runaway girl really needs.